Okay, I think we should get started. Hopefully some students will trickle in as we go along. senior management team, staff members, USPSA leadership, and I want to acknowledge Henry Bill representing that leadership, and other student leaders, chairs of various cultural groups. As you know, twice a year we have this engagement with both staff and students, and the idea is for the students to hear a little bit from us, but mostly to see how services to them are being delivered, what they feel about the university, and what do they want the management to do about really anything. And that's the main purpose of this forum. And in the past, there have been more students coming, so I'm a little bit disappointed with the numbers that we have today. But even with this small number, let's see whether there are issues. I was told that our staff outnumber the students today. But even with your small number, if you have any concerns, we can take them up. I want to start off by basically saying, and I don't want to give a long list of all the achievements of the university, but talk to you a little bit about more general student-focused things, and then leave it to you to ask any questions. But broadly, I think as students, you can be confident that we regard the students as really the primary reason why the university exists. We exist because we need to prepare the graduates and future leaders of the Pacific, and it's very important that we remember that all the time, and that message comes through in the way we deal with you from senior management, and in the way that all staff, whether they be teaching and research staff or they be support staff, they all deal with that. And I think we've been making some good progress in that, but we need to continue to make that more a situation in which students are more heavily represented in our committees and governance structures, where we engage with the students even without committees, where we work in partnership with the students, and basically where we see our own success as a university in the success of the students. Very important that we take that view. So we are a student-centric university. It is easier said than done. I think we are progressing well on that. And I want to invite the student leadership in particular to feel confident about engaging, whether they be in the academic programs committee or the teaching quality committee or Senate or council. When you are members of that, your position is the same as any other member. Okay? But it also calls on the students, I think, to have a more responsible attitude to their obligations to participate. Once that opportunity has been given, I think students need to make sure they attend, they read the papers, they bring the concerns of the students to the various committees, because that is the only way of working in a way that people don't keep on complaining. We receive feedback and we react to the feedback. I also want to say that we have been very lucky at the university to have students dedicated to the learning, and students who are fairly indulgent in the sense that they don't complain too often. I think they could complain a little bit more. They are understanding when we can't do certain things. And I found the student leadership extremely committed to the university and very mature as a student leader. So I just want to put that on record. And just a few days or last week, we had a function here organized by the students, concert for raising funds for Cyclone Winston victims. And that showed, in the whole aspect, that showed just how dedicated the students were, because they had to prepare for days and days when they could have been doing the assignments or doing some other things, but they actually put it to make sure that those who paid for the tickets and came here actually had a very good experience. And it was a very good experience. The Minister for Natural Disasters, Disaster Management, he actually sat through the whole function, which is sometimes, people leave after some of the formalities are done. He stayed on. He was very supportive, very happy to see how students are responding to the plight of others. And I think this is one of the great things about students, because they, at that age and that point in their career, show a lot of concern for others that is not so easy to see once everybody gets into the grip of their careers and take on their, get involved in their busy life. So Henry, let me convey that on behalf of my colleagues. And of course, with that comes our commitment to keep on working with the students to see that their views are fed into everything from budgets so that resources can be allocated, to how to improve learning and teaching from the point of view of the students, and how to make the university a much more conducive place for performing at a high level, but also for secure living, for enjoyable experiences, for building networks that will help you right throughout your careers. Now, one of the things that we have been trying to do, and we have received approval for a small bit of it. We've received approval for 48-bed hostel that has been in the making for some time. We're hoping to move that forward. We have plans for a 300, 350-bed hostel that we are working on, and hopefully move it quickly enough. So our plan is to actually do a lot more hostels, create a much better campus living environment, not just only at this campus, but at all the other campuses. In the past, student sort of grievances have included IT services, wireless, etc. I think we are improving in that area, and if there are any ongoing concerns, then VP is here, he can respond, and there are other IT people here. We used to get some complaints about food, but less so now, but if that is an issue that can be brought up. There have been complaints from the last council in relation to assignment turnaround, delivery of course materials, etc., which management took note of, and things have been improving, and I'm sure at the next council meeting the students will have the chance to have their say about how they perceive. We have been working hard on service level agreements so that everybody can see whether they are or what services they should be getting and how quickly and at what level. And then if they can't get it, then they have a pathway to get those services delivered to them. We still run into problems with requests for flexi schools and the commitments that people have to their face-to-face teaching, and it's a challenge. We have been floating the idea that we should be more open to bringing outside people to teach these courses, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I think there's a kind of shared responsibility for us to keep on pursuing that. But the students have been very good, because when we have identified that there is a problem with the numbers, the students have actually met some of the costs. And that's very positive, because they don't have to meet those costs because they pay the fees. But I think there is a lot of interest in that. One way of dealing with some of these bottlenecks is to actually opt for more blended learning courses and more online courses, so that you don't have the same demand for people traveling up and down. We have started a project to look at how we can record lectures here and make it available to those at the other campuses, and we hope to do some good trials on that. And generally we have to be prepared, I think, to use the quite extensive and sophisticated ICT infrastructure that we have, so that these things can be beamed, streamed, or simply recorded and shared or put on the portal for people to access. And hopefully that way we don't have this thing about we can't graduate because we don't have one or two courses that are left. People can't come to the main campuses, and we can't send lecturers out for 2 or 3 students. So I think we have to look at all the ways in which we can address the students. There are continuing concerns about continuous assessment feedback, and obviously for flexible learning we have had this continuous struggle to make sure that there is enough feedback going back, because these are not people who can come and see you in the office, have a talanoa. So our written feedback has to be that good. So going ahead, we are working on improvement of our ICT, bandwidth, some of the re-engineering that is going on, some interesting attempts to make our usage more efficient. We are hoping to move the situation where anybody who wants to live at one of the larger campuses can do so. That's not the position at the moment. We are under pressure in terms of funding for the university, so all of the staff and student residents or student accommodation staff residences have to be on a business case. And increasingly, as we take more and more loans and come to the ceiling of our loans, then we have to really explore public-private partnerships so that our own books are not loaded with too much loans. Still a lot of effort to engage with industry and professions, so that the degrees that you get are not only high quality but relevant and can prepare you for for your employment. So employability is a very big issue, and the university cannot simply say, sometimes universities quality. So all of those is moving ahead. We are trying to make sure that the services to the graduate students are good. Last time there were lots of concerns about the service to graduate students. We have the Director of Research here. I'm told that the development of the portal should really iron out a lot of things. I hope so, that it does, because really it's hard enough for people to complete masters and PhDs. It's much harder if our systems are not geared to giving them timely decisions, timely feedback, and a very facilitative, although strict and stringent environment. We have been very fortunate that our students have had opportunities to engage with other countries and societies, and a very large number of people participated in the Genesis program. And we are committed to making the university more international in the sense of bringing increasing number of fully fee-paying international students, so we have a bit of mix and we earn some money, which in return can be spent on student and staff services. But we also want to make sure that our graduates can participate in experience abroad. And of course, other people who come into the university often are richer, so they can pay their fares, they can absorb the additional cost. Our students are not so rich, so we have more limited numbers going out. But I think we are expanding, and we should really think of putting a certain percentage of international student fee into supporting student exchanges, so that our students can get more experience. And really not only societies and institutions work, and that is important, to show them what you are capable of, because what you will find is that we have many attributes as advantages that we need to share with others. So it's not only and always about learning from others, but teaching others in many ways. In many ways we are blessed in the Pacific with many attributes that others have lost or are trying to get. I think that's about what I would like to say at this time, and I'll leave it to you to raise any questions, so that either I or members of my team can respond. Okay, so we open it up for discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you've got a mic there.
Thank you, sir. My name is Felix Parker. I'm going on a second year student in law and human resource. I think so. Last semester I raised something about the internet. Well, it's still, I think so, still a work in progress. Hopefully it can go better, because most of our things are online. And there's an issue when we're trying to get labs. One is lab issue, where there's computers are not working. This is reality, and hopefully that can be brought to your sense so that you can look at it. I think so. The other concerns is when I was working with the disability center, there was some place that is not OHS compliant in terms of accessibility. I think so. This was done because of the classes in towards the main road, and because I'm part of that thing, I think so that should be brought to your attention. And my last thing is about the law students. I think so. They were trying to fight for something about bringing the 300 level back here. I have a few reasons why they should have it here, because I think so. In due to the example is the hurricane that happened, the cyclone that came around. What had happened is when they had because our coordinators in Vanuatu, everybody had to focus on Vanuatu's level. So we had to do a catch-up thing. See, I believe if you had a coordinator here in Suva, in Lovala, then it will be easy to make decisions based on our environment issues. That's how I felt. And I think so that's about it for now. Thanks.
For now, that's enough to get us going. So essentially, there are issues around OHS compliance. So who is here from OHS? No? Disability? Yeah, okay. So Group Manager Campus Life will speak about that. And computers not working in internet, VPA will speak. And on law, I am wondering whether the Dean will speak. And she will speak first, and if necessary, I'll also speak on it. Is that okay? So we start with Glenn.
Regarding the Disability Centre, I'm not sure of the actual OHS issues, but if you want to bring them up with the manager, we can address that particular one. But can I just say that only last week we endorsed a plan for the extension of the Disability Centre, because both myself, the manager of the disability, plus the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Learning, Teaching and Student Services, is well aware about the need to expand that centre. So there is already been endorsed and signed an extension of the Disability Centre that will hopefully accommodate the 41 disabled students we currently have.
Yeah.
My concern is, the accessibility. It's not the accessibility of those who use it.
To a disability centre or to some other place?
Facilities.
The facilities. Because down if you look at Fale, there's a student that has to go to the dungeon. They call it the dungeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're well aware, sorry, we are aware.
Those are the things that we need to highlight.
Yeah, if you're talking about access in terms of the expected size of ramps and et cetera, then we're well aware of that. We have an audit already being done and we're looking at that at the moment. Can I just say also, if you look at what we have done, one of the things we tried to do before we started trying to recruit disabled students to come to the university, to open up a stairway for them, we also had to try and reduce the barriers, and that's what you're just talking about. And you'll find that we have, for example, all the boys have ramps going over. Every time we build a building now, we use the universal code to try and assist us. So we are working on that.
And I think just to add, once that audit is done, we'll try and see if we can allocate some money to keep on modifying the existing facility. The new ones will be fully compliant with the existing ones. And it's not always easy, but we will have to try and find some money and have a program that sees it all become compliant over time.
And the Kiribati building is compliant now that we built that year. Okay. On the issue of computers, months ago I instructed ITS that they should visit every lab twice a day. And I was assured on the record that every computer in every lab that they visit works. And it doesn't. The DVC went and looked at them, and then I did, and they don't. It has been made the KPI of the user services manager and the director of ITS that if computers continue not to be working in the labs, then personnel action will be taken against either or both. Because we've had enough of this. It is normal expectation for students and instructors to go into a lab and find things working. It is not a question of money. We have the money, we have the plans, the standard. The computers get replaced every year. In fact, the EDF and I worked to put all of the money into one account, give the access to ITS, and require ITS to give us 1, 2, 3-year plans so that the complaint used to be all these computers come at the same time and we don't have time to install them or whatever. Now they have the money up front. There's absolutely no reason why they cannot install these computers during the year in multiple shifts so that you never have a problem where labs are not working. So that's my responsibility. The flip side of this thing is that whenever you find something not working, put put in a help desk ticket. Even if it is one computer or something missing, whatever, put in a help desk ticket. That helps me, because I can track the help desk ticket and hold the people responsible for not doing their job. But this whole business of things not working, that is something we will have zero tolerance for.
Okay, I think that, in fact, that particular case is very interesting, because once you begin to look at it, you realize how complex something simple can be. So, I have been disappointed, like the VPA, when we find that it's not working. So, when the explanation came back, it was that when some computers have run the 5 years life, we have had a practice of retaining them for student lab. So one lab apparently is made up like that. I think first thing we need to do is to get rid of that policy so that you don't, because if you go to that particular lab, you are bound to have some problems. The other problem is that the money for these computers were made available in around October, approved by council in November. And our systems should have been able to secure these computers before the semester started. Those computers were ordered in April. So we have to put all the things together to say money is there, whose job it is to order it, these are the timelines, and make sure that it all happens. The bulk of the computers for staff and students haven't been procured yet. I have not seen them arrive. And that's not what should happen. There's been ongoing problems with our CAPEX. Money is allocated in the previous year. Of course, you can't spend it until council approves it, but you can issue the purchase order on that day or the day after. And CAPEX is allowed to be used. Unlike all other money, you have to spend it in the year. So I think that we need to tie up all of these things and make sure that the inspection that is done does mean that when people say that the things are not working, they should be working. And indeed, I have often wondered, because everything is connected, whether one should be able to monitor any device connected to the system that is not working, especially the computer labs. So let's try and fix it. I hope that those that have just been ordered arrive very quickly and replace those computers. And for next year, I guess I am putting all my senior management under pressure to make sure that the money that is allocated for student labs, etc., the computers are procured before the start of the semester. Because otherwise we're going 1 year behind. Okay? And then we have a good help system, we should be able to deal with the ones that are not working.
Thank you very much for raising that question. Every year I get this request. For the last 3 years, it was requested for the first year. We did provide for that. So first year is now taught face-to-face here at Laudala campus. Again, it was raised. We're now offering face-to-face second year. Last year it was raised for third year to be offered. We have appointed a senior lecturer who has come from, very well qualified, from University of Fiji to us, regional person, who is now based here. And in terms of, and we found that more and more students are studying here at Laudala. However, I think students have to realize that the decision to have the law school in Vanuatu was made by council, and I think VC will speak more on that. The thing that the university would have to do, like what VC has said, to respond to the needs of students, would have to look at what are the alternative ways that we can look at to be able to address the needs of the students, a big number here, definitely in Lodala and in Emalas. However, I must say we cannot completely have the 300 level here, otherwise what do we do in Emalas? But as I've already said, there are discussions of what can be done. This has been discussed by the Vice Chancellor and the head of school, and I will be following that up. So I just want to assure the students that we are very much aware of the need that has come, and it continues to be an issue, particularly when you want a face-to-face because of the traffic, because of the, so many students all using, the model, and you find, just like when you have too much traffic that we're having on the road. So I think you have to understand that we all want to reach our destination, and yet this is what happens. I've had to learn something from IT because I used to complain endlessly that it's so slow, and then I was taught in a very simple layman's term about the traffic, so I'm just sharing with you that. But we try our best to be able to address that, but that's what it is, and VC will be able to talk more about Vanuatu and the number of students. But you mentioned about somebody being the coordinator here. We do have, somebody managing, coordinating the law program here, but the head of school comes every now and then. We have arranged that he comes here. We have the PDLP program. Again, the number has increased because we are running that over here in Fiji, as well as the LLB. So we are trying our best to look at the best alternative ways to address what you have raised. Thank you. Maybe VC, you want to say a little bit more on that.
Yes, I think law represents a very interesting shift in the environment since law was established. In the old days, you could establish agriculture in Samoa and say, you want to do agriculture, you go to Samoa. When we established law in Vanuatu, it was said that if you want to get a scholarship, if you want to do law, you go to Vanuatu. Well, then came the internet. And right now, you can do law courses from University of London here. You can do law courses from a wide range of providers. You can go across and do law at University of Fiji. And FNU keeps on saying that they are also running a law program. So the law situation has become more complicated. Also, now we have more students doing law at Lodala than in Emalos. And we are not able to step back and think about the change situation and change our arrangements. Because when the law school comes together, they all say, no, we must all keep our job in Emalos. They're not thinking about where the students are. And quite often when you begin to talk about it, okay, we have to close this, we have to close that, we're not coming up with solutions that are not self-interested, and we're not coming up with any innovative solution, and we keep on pointing to the same problem. We can't have two sets of people. We can't have two sets of people. But in between, there are lots of other possibilities. So I think Dean and I have been feeling that the solution will not come from law school. They're just not capable of coming up with a solution without feeling that if I suggest that, it will impact me or my colleagues. So we have to really brainstorm with some more independent people on that. In the future, we have to be prepared for situations where the law school might remain somewhere, but more and more staff will move to different locations. The coordinating and the curriculum, all of that could still be coordinated from one place. We will also begin to see that with improved bandwidth, and especially in Amalos, because we have fiber, we should have really the ability to have very, very good blended learning. So we have to just deal with this problem. The problem is when you ask somebody for a report, they kind of write a report, and then the committee meets and they look at the thing, and then everybody forgets about finding the solution. The solution is not writing a report. The solution is actually getting the solution implemented, taking the time out to communicate, because any talk of closing the law school in Amalos will not help the university. And you don't have to close something to provide somebody else a solution. And that's what I want to see happening. For too long, other people have had to provide solutions. I think people who are responsible for solutions need to do that themselves. What we are indicating is time is running out. Because right now, the largest non-Vanuatu element of the law school is Solomon Islands. It's very likely that when the new campus is done, those students will want to study in Solomon Islands. And then what will happen? These are the sorts of things that an intelligent academic planner will look at. And we are not doing that sufficiently. So I'm afraid there's a longish answer to something, but I have been exercised by that, because I think we've got to solve some of these problems. And we manage the relationships with countries extraordinarily well, because when you look at it, very few universities have to deal with 12 countries, different levels of development, different interests. But we've done it successfully. It's very important that we keep on anticipating the changing scenarios and different interests and try to provide something that is sensible. I'd also like to see whether there is any solution in University of Fiji and USP sharing some courses. Because to the extent that they are offering that course in Samambula and we are offering here, and to the extent that both of these are accepted by the Fiji Board of Legal Education, there is a reason to say, okay, can we agree on one or two courses where they will not teach it, they'll all come here, and one or two courses that we will teach here, and they will not teach there. So I think there are solutions, but we need to be going after out-of-box solutions. It's very important that the university accepts some of the overriding factors of success in this new world system, one of which is to engage. The more you engage, whether it's engaging with the students like this, engaging with the staff, engaging with the community, engaging with the industry, engaging with other universities, engaging with the private sector. The more we engage, the more successful we will be. And quite often it's not necessary for any university to do everything by itself. You can do 3/4 of something and still create your brand. Okay? So I think, and I leave it to responsible staff to just look at all of those.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Avnil. I have an issue with the computers. Like it was mentioned that the ITS staff, they are there to maintain it. But we have made numerous complaints from the newsroom to the ITS staff. The newsroom assistant herself has called, our tutors have called, I myself have called the ITS help desk. And basically, because half the computers aren't working over there, and some there does not have internet access. And this year there was an increase in enrollment. That means now we have about 70 first-year students, and that makes in total 100 students using the newsroom. So basically, someone does come at every 3 to 4 weeks, just does some random check, goes back. We don't see his face till the next 3 to 4 weeks, and each time it's the same person. So I was hoping something could be done about that, and also about the USP network, because I have noticed that this year the USP network is very slack, because This morning, Quora was down. So some of us had our assignments saved in it, and it's due today. So now there's no way for us to submit that because when we called up, they said that the issue will be resolved by tomorrow. And within the semester, there have been many instances when Moodle has been down. And I was so frustrated, I called up the Moodle team, and the guy that answered, Dheeraj, he told me that there's loading issue and network issue. And I feel that these are lame excuses, because when it comes to loading, almost every assignment for almost every unit are due on the same day. And because this is my second year, last year I never faced any such issue. And as far as the network is concerned, every other website works perfectly. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, these work perfectly. Then why is our Moodle slow? So yeah, these are my issues. Thank you.
Okay, VP.
I'll answer the same, and in terms of the lab you're talking about, that I've already answered that we're making that more stringent so that what is there and what isn't there is, we have a better handle on that thing, and we get our daily reports, and I can hold people accountable. So that we can deal with. Moodle, I'll let Dheeraj answer, since that has very little to do with IT.
This is the newsroom of SLAM? Okay.
Replace the CPU or whatever needs to be done.
Well, I mean, he didn't come up in our staff meeting, but I just went and visited and they told me the students were there. And then they told the IT person. You have to be precise which particular lab, because when you talk about the lab, there's so many computer labs. And it is important, excuse me, Chair, it's important when that happens, because in the faculties we do have some IT people who can come, like a teacher is there. And I sent him immediately if there is a problem about that. So, you know, I think that is also important. I sent him out to come and have a look, but, you know, we will follow it up again. Because I think it's very important for students when they identify which lab. And if you see that it's important, go to the help desk or someone. Thank you.
Please welcome the Director of ITS. He can stand up and introduce himself and answer some questions.
Sorry. My apology, VC, because I wasn't aware of this forum.
Okay.
But I'm here if you have any question. My name is Kisiane. I'm the Director of IT. So if you have any question, then my apology for being late.
Did you hear any of the most recent questions?
No, I just came in, VC.
Okay, so let me summarize. I think the view is, one is the feeling that sometimes large numbers of computers are physically not working. That's one, in some of the labs. And two is that while some of the other components work, the Moodle component is slow. They want to know what is happening. And there was some reference to internet, so I wasn't quite sure, you know, like which component, but they're probably being covered in this thing.
I think so you covered the whole concept of the idea that you are coming up with new products. So the reason is most of the things are outdated. And that's what we wanted to hear, that you're coming to change. That this is to our students, that we know there's new products. And so in terms of that, I think it's just the person that is within the newsroom in the file there.
Okay.
And there are issues with the computer. I think the Apple, I think they use Apple with a different...
No, the Apple is for the Mac lab, that is used by that is used in the second semester, that is fine. But in the PC,
But it's only for journalism students.
Okay.
Maybe I'll respond if There are some special lab. I'm talking about the postgraduate lab, that comes under faculty. There are also facilities that we look after, the IT services look after. For our facility, some of our, as you know, 5 years PC need to change. And I think some of the lab, especially there's one big lab in the ICT building, those PC need to replace. Unfortunately, our process to replace those, I think there is some delay when we play ITS for not pushing it hard, but those PCs supposed to be replaced this year. And I think that's probably, if you refer to it, yeah, those PCs are 5 years old that need to be replaced. And I think that's why you see a lot of empty slot there, because those PCs should not be there, and we should replace that.
You see, when we began this discussion, I said just make a policy that no computer that is more than 5 years should be in the lab. Because if you put them, then you will obviously have the potential for more frequent breakdowns and therefore potential for more conflict. I want to know the ones that we ordered just recently, the computers, are they arriving? Have they arrived? What will happen?
Now we see, I think the order, because as you said, the book center just placed the order. I think we are looking about 2 to 3 weeks before those computers arrive.
Yeah. So you missed some bit that I said about that. What I would really like is when the budget is prepared, the budget is prepared because we feel we need certain things. And we know how many things we need because that's what we are asking for money for. So when it goes to Finance Committee and Finance Committee approves, you should be very certain, because Council never modifies the Finance Committee budget. You should get your purchase orders and all of those things lined up. The moment Council approves it, day or two after, you should place the order so that the computers for 2016 should always be, especially the student ones, in the labs before the first semester starts. I think we should need to work on that cycle.
Agree with you.
Okay.
Then I can touch on the question the student raised about Moodle. First of all, thank you very much for your question. And we do apologize if you have experienced a few hiccups with the system lately. We're just trying to ascertain why there's a bit of a slowness on the system, which is causing huge issues for the students. But in the day, Moodle is a system, Google, YouTube, they are all very different systems. Trying to put comparison to them wouldn't be as right as trying to come out that YouTube works for you and Moodle doesn't work for you. So this different systems have different ways of working. So as I said, we apologize if you have come across the slowness of the system, which wasn't there. So we're just trying to ascertain why that is being done. Because we experience at certain time of it just becomes very slow, and otherwise it works all right. In terms of end of the day, Moodle also needs the entire USB network to run. So if there is a bit of congestion in the system, then you can actually feel that as well. So, but we will definitely get that investigated why it's all of a sudden it's slowed down a bit.
Dheeraj, could I make a suggestion that we should have some benchmarks around what is the acceptable or normal service from Moodle and establish it to whatever it should be. And then you should have an automatic way of monitoring, machine-driven monitoring of what the performance is relative to your benchmark. And so it automatically triggers something for somebody to do, is to see what it is, so that we don't, I think one danger we have is that we are so forgiving and so understanding that we can't rise to the right standards. I think we need to set those standards and meet them.
We'll definitely get that done.
Okay. Yes, there, and there's another one at the back.
Thank you, VC. My name is Derek Smiles. I'm a graduate student from the FBE. I have a couple of issues that I want to stress out. I think there are three on my list over here. First, I would like to touch on teaching assistant. We feel as regional students are being disadvantaged or are discriminated against teaching assistant posts here at the university. In almost every case, when a graduate student by merit is being allocated from his faculty, the immigration cards pops up. We are not actually looking for jobs in McDonald's so that we are going to take Fiji jobs away. We are just actually being assistant. Can we just use the wealth of knowledge and the talent that are contributed to the university? Every universities around the world, they do have that. Any teaching assistant comes, it should be waived and it should go through immigration waiver. So that is one issue. I would like to actually talk on behalf of other regional students, and definitely I'll bring it up with my Minister of Education. The second point I would want to stress is GAs and teaching assistants as well. I'm from the School of Governance. I'm a GA because I'm a PhD student, but there are no room allocations for the environment to do a PhD in USV much better or much easier. I do the work same as, mark the paper same as any other GA, but I don't have a table, I don't have a place to sit on. Am I any different to the teaching assistants doing the same job, or am I not qualified enough? A part of that is the allocations of jobs to graduate assistants. When you come in for a 3-year PhD program under scholarship, the work allocations are same throughout. It takes more time to actually teach than writing a thesis. Can we actually find ways to massage that slowly? I think that's all I have for now. I'll come up with some others later on.
Okay, I think VP will respond to the immigration issue.
On the teaching assistants in immigration, I actually met with the regional students. Fiji law is Fiji law. University has nothing to do with it. Fiji law, immigration law is so strict that you cannot even volunteer to do something. I cannot even join my child's parent-teacher association as a volunteer, even though I'm a resident here. That's Fiji law. The university cannot contravene the Fiji law. We had one test case in which a student was granted, a regional student was granted a permission by one specific person in immigration to allow them to be a TA, and we have used that to file an application with the Director of Immigration to create an exemption for all TAs, especially given the fact that, like you said, it creates a discriminatory practice, essentially, where TAs are not really going out looking for jobs at McDonald's. It is part of their studies, it is part of their expertise that they're being used for, And this is a regional university, and we have made that case with the Director of Immigration. We have actually pursued it pretty heavily, but we don't have a decision yet because it's a decision on law. Till we actually get a decision, we cannot allow that unless we get a case-by-case exemption. It is for your own safety, because if we do give you a TA-ship and you accept it, and you're on a student visa, they can deport you. They can deport you and they can ban you from coming back into Fiji for at least 1 year. So we have to follow the law. But we're working very vigorously with the Immigration Department to see if they will give us that exemption. But it really is in their hands. If they don't give us that exemption, then unfortunately, the practice will stand. But we're hoping for the best and working towards getting an exemption. So I hope that answers the immigration and TA issue.
Yes, so we'll wait and see what the reaction is. Quite often in these cases, these are political decisions, and we can take them up. We'll wait for the process. After this, we'll take it up as a matter of either get the council to look at it, where all ministers of education are there, and make it into an issue that they should address, because if they want to keep the regionality of the university, then it's not just Fiji. The laws are the same in all the other campuses, and that's because that's the law they inherited, and the same laws apply in other countries. If you go to Australia or New Zealand or whatever, see, they relax the working rules and all that very specifically. So we have to take it up at council. It can be brought up at other levels. We'll try and deal with it at that level. But right now, as the VP says, the Director of Immigration simply follows the law. And as long as the law is there with no exemption, and he probably doesn't want to grant the exemption, if it goes up to another minister, not the Minister of Education. So it's something that, one, we wait in case it gets fixed, otherwise we'll take it up with our own Minister of Education here, because this is the most immediate issue. And then we can also take it up to council and make it into a issue that council should do some thinking on, okay? On the issue of facilities, I think that we got the Director of the Research Office here. I think it is intended that as we promote masters and PhDs in particular, we must improve the physical facilities for them. Places, they may not all have individual offices, but at least some places. So, most of us, when we went to do our PhDs, we either had an office to ourselves, or there were 2 or 3 people, but it was your place. You could leave your stuff, you could regard that as your private space as well. So I think on that one, I mean, we did put in the strategic plan a objective of improving facilities for research students, and we just need to see where we are with that. I agree with you entirely that we need to provide, if we're going to scale up serious research, led degrees, then we need to scale up our provision of facilities. In the meanwhile, I think the Dean wants to say something.
Hours by the road, and I think FBA has got the big one. We pass by the road, and FSTE is up at the lodge, and we were given funding. Each faculty was given funding, to try and accommodate all the postgraduates, particularly those who are writing their theses, the PhDs and the masters, because there are not enough rooms in the buildings, particularly for ours. We don't have rooms there, so most of them are there at the postgraduate lounge or buildings, separate buildings. I'm just wondering,
We have the Associate Dean Research here for FBE.
yes,
Maybe he can shed some light on what facilities exist at the faculty level.
We see, we do have postgraduate lab, but I suppose what he's talking about is talking about the individual place for the graduate assistants. We do have a postgraduate lab.
Lab meaning, I mean, he's talking about, if you're a PhD student, you need some space which need not be a lab.
We do have a table and chair,
Okay.
but we don't have the separate rooms for the graduate assistants.
Yeah, I
But he's
think
talking about-
separate rooms have gone now for graduate students, but, some places for a small number of people.
Yeah, we have 40 spaces for these research students.
Okay. Do you have in your own faculties, this kind of student and faculty management interface? Okay. So I think you should bring it up and see what the faculty is thinking you have and what you have, what is the discrepancy? And what are you talking about and what are they talking about? Okay. The final question you had was the workload. So if you are a GA, you are on a scholarship, in return you provide, what is the hours? 8 hours a week. Okay, so what you're really saying is that that should scale downwards. Yeah.
Thank you for my...
Yeah, I think that was what we were thinking about, because when you have to, for example, I have DG 100 and DG 101, which is 2 courses, and then you have a couple of, say, 80 to 90 papers for each courses. That takes time if we actually give justice to the students to actually comment on every aspect of their work. And so when we don't recruit more of those here and we centralize the marking, which we take also marking for further open campuses, it becomes quite a bulky and a big process of going through, while struggling through, trying to go through a proposal, running around doing your work, and then you don't have the proper facilities. You have this computer set where you come in the morning and all your work wiped out. It's kind of like frustrating. I mean, why then we introduce PhD if we cannot meet with the standard? I mean, these are really frustrating things, and this is my last year. I should be finishing off anytime by July or December, but because some process of this, there is no scale down of this, it takes more time for me to actually mark students' work rather than actually doing my PhD. So I think there should be some sort of wavering when it comes to your last year of writing. I think they should just give an exemption to final year PhD or master students to just concentrate on what they do, and so that these people move out and have a life rather than spending almost 11 to 20 years here at the university being broke. Thank you.
I think what I would like to suggest is that you have postgraduate committees in the faculties, you have student representatives on it. I think there is merit in sort of saying, well, if you're a PhD student, does the last year mean there's some reduction in the hours that you do? I think it makes some sense, but we've got to have a university-wide discussion on it and then be consistent with everybody. We also need to be sure that 8 hours means 8 hours. So, people are not in a situation not requiring 8 hours or giving you work that is adding to 16 hours. So it's a little bit of work to be done in that. But I think your point is taken. And see, in all of these things, the Vice Chancellor doesn't decide on a policy. Quite often, none of the senior management will decide on a policy. A lot of these things go to various committees that run the GA shape scholarships, and you have your faculty committees, and try and work them through some of these mechanisms. Okay? I mean, the thing is, nobody doing a PhD has any life. That's the reality. You have a life before, and you hope you will have a life afterward, but not during a PhD.
Pinaka, before I raise my issues, I just want to share a few things. I work at the ITS as a student intern, and from my personal experience, some students, they go through an issue, and some of them don't know where to seek help. They know the help desk, but they don't know how to approach it. So that's just speaking from experience. The issues that I want to raise today is in regards to the student affairs. The first one is road usage. As you will experience this every day when we cross from Koshu Mall supermarket into school. And I think it was before mid-semester break, an email was sent from the security department, I think, that they're going to help, they're going to have security officers holding wailers and telling students to use the crossing but not jaywalking. Now, I read that email the day it was sent, and then I thought that they're going to have security officers having wailers at the crossing, but then there was, when I went home that evening, I didn't see anybody conducting that, and I think for drivers, it is really a risk driving past that bit of road to go somewhere, and you tend to come across students passing carelessly on that. It gives a really great risk for drivers and also pedestrians. And if you wait on the street light, it takes around, I think it's more than 10 minutes to wait for the lights to change, and then you can cross. But I think the priority is given to the vehicles most of the time. And my second issue is regards to the food that the restaurants in campus are providing. Now, as a tourism and hospitality students, from experiencing the preparation of food that this restaurant are doing is not really to what we expect from them. They're not even I think they're not even following the policy or the procedures to prepare a meal. They're not wearing gloves and head cover. And I don't know if the university tend to review this every year or as to what these restaurants are doing. And if you notice, Southern Cross is next to the convenience. That is not really, if the first time I saw that, I stopped buying food from Southern Cross, because if you look at standard, where the food is supposed to be prepared is not. It should be away from something that can harm what people are going to produce, going to consume. For example, the food. So I think is the university doing something about that, especially from these 2 points. And I think one of the important ones is the first one that I made is the safety for students and also drivers. I know that it takes a long process to deal with this, but if anything could be done, will be very appreciated. Because when we came into school and we expect safety and things to be done into our expectation. But sometimes we came in and nothing has been done. Especially when I read the email and expect, because as a new driver, I get that pressure when I used to cross the road. I see all the students just crossing in front of us. You're just so frustrated. And when I read that email, it gave me a relief. But then in the afternoon, I go home, there was nothing done. Not even a single security office was there to hold that way line, telling students to use the street lights. And then if the university can negotiate with the Federal Authority to whoever deals with that street light, because the time it takes longer for that pedestrian cross light to come in. And if you're late, you don't have no choice but this cross to jaywalk.
Okay, I think we've got the gist of the questions. Maybe BPA will take the food and restaurant issue.
I can talk a little bit about the other one as well, if you'd like. On the light issue, first of all, it's your responsibility. Nobody's forcing you to cross the street there. There is a light, there's a pedestrian crossing that you can use. Somebody standing there inhaling people on a megaphone and saying, don't do that, is not a conducive problem, a solution to this problem. But point taken that there's a problem there. At one point, this is not my area, but I'm just sharing what I know from the VP Properties and Facilities and having conversations with them. At one point, they had talked to the City Council about actually putting in lights right in front of our gate. But that hasn't gone anywhere. The city does not want to do it, and it's probably not going to do it. Another option we had talked about was to move the bus gate actually over to the lights in front of McDonald's. And I'm not sure if conversations were had with students or not, but that wasn't very well received either, because it was like then we would have to walk back. So it's one of those things where there has to be some inconvenience. And I think whatever the solution is going to involve some inconvenience. And what we can do is we can go back to the VP for Properties and Facilities and see where we are with this and follow up with Henry. On the food thing, this is sort of a multi-edged thing. We have actually written now food security into their contracts so that they have to be, I guess, more clean than they are, because this issue came up last time. And there have been improvements, but not to the extent that you're talking about, where we start comparing the APTC Fusion restaurant with these restaurants. One of the issues is that, yes, we can enforce additional measures, but legally they're not obligated to wear gloves and head covers. And so if we say this is what we want, it'll also end up being costly. And every time that students come and talk with me, it's mostly about bring the cost of the food down, bring the cost of the food down. So we do monitor health and safety and the basic rules around that, but enforcing something that is not needed by law essentially translates into additional cost. The toilets, well, that's how the building is built. We can shut down the toilets and move it elsewhere. But they've been there for many years. That's not something that's new. So, well, we can look into shutting those down if that's what the students want.
Hi, I just want to talk to you about responsiveness. I've just completed my master's here. I've been involved in the university for nearly 2 years now. And you made the comment that it's important for students to raise their concerns when they find them, that we need to raise our concerns when the computers don't work, raise our concerns when we see them. And in my 2 years here, I've seen that happen a lot. But what I haven't seen is a quick, a timely, or a comprehensive response from the university when comments and complaints are raised. So what I would like to see very much from your office is a culture starting at the top, that when complaints are raised, they are acknowledged within a timely manner, and that they are time tagged so that students have a reasonable expectation of when they will receive some kind of action or some kind of response to their complaint. For instance, I have an email sitting in your office that I am looking forward to receiving a response on that I have been waiting for since November. I sent a follow-up in March. I sent a follow-up 2 weeks after that in March, and I sent another follow-up today, and I am looking forward to receiving an adequate response. Similarly, as my colleague Derek raised, with the problems in the FBE lab, I have seen this being raised on 4 separate occasions, and we have not had an adequate dialogue that has led to sufficient action. The fact that there are desks and chairs in the FBE lab is not sufficient because those desks don't have access to power sockets. So students are not able to work at them for any length of time if they need access to electronic devices such as laptops when they need the internet during their marking. There are several other problems with those labs, like the fact that the computers are right beside the windows, they get glare, and we've raised these issues but they've not been responded to. So while I fully appreciate that students need to raise their issues where they see them, I would very much like to see improved responsiveness from the university when they are raised.
I think that's a very valid point. Let me start first with if we are providing desks and chairs, I think in today's world those desks must have PowerPoints and the like. So who can we ask that all those facilities that we have be looked at, and where we don't have power, we should provide them, because that's really the reality of what we do these days. I agree with you entirely that we should be responsive, and we are trying to do it in a number of ways. One is to actually set systems so that responses can be made, the complaints can be directed to whoever should receive the complaint. In some of the cases, in HR, for instance, automated systems are being set up so that people log in, they get a response, they can track their progress of the complaint through the system. If all of that works, that's the model for the others. In other cases, we used to have lots of problems from students. So DVC Cole has actually developed the student grievance policy. And I used to get a lot of complaints from students, and usually I would send it off to whoever I felt should answer them. And then everybody felt, well, why are all these complaints going to the VC? They're not meant for his office, and it should go to particular places. So now I am actually, before I used to respond to them because they had already come. Now I'm saying, please fill in the grievance form or do that, because in the end that helps the situation. Now, usually things should come to the Vice Chancellor's office when the policy has been followed and you're not happy with something. Now, your case was one such case, and just so that you don't think that we see something and we don't do anything, I did see your email despite having a very busy day today. It wasn't written to me, it was copied to me, and I have asked DVC Cole to actually respond. So what happens when you get you get a complaint like yours, okay? First, the system tends to be a bit defensive, so we've done our part. Then sometimes we say, okay, we need to really relook at it. Then we find the system isn't doing what it's supposed to do. It's not that somebody is actually being bad about it. Secretariat began to, that's where, because they handle the complaints, so Secretariat was asked to look at why is this happening, why your complaints are coming in. So the Secretariat says, we are now reviewing the policies.
But I have received no acknowledgement that my complaint was even being made.
Right.
So I don't know
that's where
that
it is going wrong. So then today's response was, why can't you deal with Secretariat directly rather than writing to everybody? So today's response was that whoever you wrote to, in this case the two DVCs, should write to you, right, and say that this matter is now being dealt with by the Secretariat, and the Secretary to Council has said that she would very much welcome your input into the review and redrafting of that thing. So, we do pick it up, but, it's going in different places. And I did feel that you had merit in your complaint, and that is why I got it channeled to various people, dealt with the initial reactions, and ultimately getting the review, the policies redrafted. Okay? No, that's fine. I think that there is, the Vice Chancellor's office is ultimately the review office. So if people have followed everything, there are many cases where a separate appeal procedure is there, they should follow that. And when that separate independent appeal is taken place, then the Vice Chancellor's office has no grounds or role in that. But if something has happened and you feel that I've done everything and I still don't feel good, at that point you are entitled to write, and I treat that with respect and try and look at whether I read this stuff or I say to somebody, can you go through that and see what is happening. Yes, point taken. Yes. So you should get a communication saying that this is what's happening and to invite you to input into it. Yeah. Right, and that is why we go back to the grievance procedure. So really a good grievance procedure is where you complain with all of the data. Then the person receiving it should be able to say, we acknowledge this complaint, it is now going to go through the grievance procedure, so you are informed, and then the grievance procedure takes over, and you should be informed of either outcomes or that, you need to provide further input. I think that we've had grievance procedures, but they are being tightened. Sometimes the rulings are not being complied with as well. And that's something that the Secretariat is looking at.
I think you were complaining another thing in response to what she was saying. The response is especially for library.
Especially?
Library. When we are overdue with books, there is no notification that you are going to be fined. And then when you show after one day, they say magically you are very good with $800. So it becomes, if you look at it and you say, there should be some sort of notification because some of us are teaching runs around all the time. And then there should be notifications that from today all we charge you for the books that are delayed, and they just give you a month for those books. Can you have 6 months or 1 semester?
Our faculty is very different.
But those are some of the kind of for example.
I'll have Libby answer that, and then what I wanted to add to it, I'll just tell you now. One of the things we're doing is this year we will set up a student portal, self-serve portal. So we're working very hard to change finance procedures, and also so that all the fee assessments, fines, holds, they're all available to you once you log in under your ID onto student portal. When your fees are due, if you have any books due, whatever, all of that. So we're working very hard to build that student portal. We're doing that for the staff as well. But DVC Cole and I have been working with SAS. We've been changing their processes. So you have to realize it's a very intricate process just to make that self-serve portal, because it'll go all the way from your financial information to also your degree audits. So you can see how you're finishing, and if you don't take this course, how it will impact your degree, and how far are you from finishing, all of that. So we're working very hard with SAS, we're working very hard with finance, and then of course IT to make that. And we're really hoping to launch that this year so that all information related to you as a student is available on that one portal that you log on to. And if you're a staff, then all information regarding you as a staff, whether it's leave, whether it's pay, whether it's whatever, is available on the other portal.
I'll be very quick. Others are wanting to present it. In terms of the library and fines, the history behind the fine is to ensure that items circulate. And you, as a customer, it's your responsibility. Once we stamp the back of the book, that's our way of letting you know the book is due, and your responsibility is to return it on time. If you don't return it on time, there's a fine. It's like when you don't pay a loan to the bank. The bank does not ring you up and send you a note. They'll just add the interest to your account. And after it builds up, you may get a note. Okay, there's 13,000 FDSs. All these students, every day we're sending notices. We stopped that for students because it clogged up things, and students say, I didn't get the note, then we have to prove to them that we sent the note. So we stopped that, and we impress upon the students during orientation all the documentation.
Yes.
So there's a lot in place to let you know and help you in that sense.
So I think we look forward on this thing. And I think we will take a few questions, but we must finish at just before 4, because this will be occupied, and also we have other commitments beyond 4. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Eleanor, I'm a PhD student of Fale on my last leg of the training, hopefully. First of all, I'd like to thank you personally, because the last VC forum I raised a lot of issues which was attended to promptly. And that shows your commitment into providing excellence in training, particularly with the license of SPSS and the processing of our proposals and the financial acquittals and all this other stuff. I've got 2 issues, very important issues, I must say, regarding we're lucky, unlike our colleagues from FBE, we've got a lovely house. We've got chairs, tables, we sleep overnight, it's open 24/7. The only problem now, sir, which is the main issue, our gate is not open to us. We share the gate to the clubhouse, staff club, yeah. Reasons being, that gate has been used because I had to go around asking security guards and other people, and they said that gate has been used by intruders or people who come in to break into the university. So I just thought to myself, why penalize us? We are young ladies in our 60s and 50s who have to walk by the old gate shortcut. So I was going to come to your office and take you personally for a walkabout. When it rains, we've had a few women that have fallen there. And I promised myself, next time someone falls, I will bring the dirty person to your office to actually see the impact of that walkabout. We don't have a proper walkway when the gate is locked. If we have cars, fortunately the old security gate, they allow us to park our cars there. But otherwise, when it rains, we'll have to walk right around. And coming in the night, we have to park our car elsewhere and then walk to the center. Like I said, we're fortunate we've got a center, but we cannot access our center through the gate, which is locked all the time. The only time it opens is when it has a delivery of beers and whatnot to the clubhouse. That's one issue, sir. And secondly, the issue of license. I know it was dealt with when I raised it in the last VC forum, but now we've got issues with license extended for only a year on SPSS and EndNote. These are important softwares that students in their writing stage need. So we're just trying to bring it up to your attention again. And I know this forum is very effective because everybody jumps when you speak. Thank you.
So the license, is it just 1 year at a time, or is it like terminal? 1 year at a time. So it's easy enough to get it renewed? Okay, so there's no limitation. We just get it renewed. It doesn't charge, right? We don't charge again?
We pay for it every year.
Or faculty pays, somebody pays, not the students, yeah. Okay, so the university pays for the license.
Some of this is not in our control. If the licensing agency doesn't want to give a multi-year license or a site license, we, in general, if it is something that students use, we always strive to get a site license. So it doesn't matter where you're using it, how you're using it, it's covered. But there are many organizations that don't want to give site licenses. They don't want to give you multi-year licenses because they either want to raise the fees or they want to do whatever. So it's easier said than done. Why don't you just buy it bulk? If we can't do it, we just can't do it. So last year when this was brought up, the faculty paid for it and we bought the license and we'll continue it. So you won't lose service, but we just can't extend it. In fact, like when we look at licenses, the reason for managing licenses in Centrally is that we actually look and see if we can buy a different version of that license. So, for example, you could have it on your own laptop as a graduate student. I know, but what I'm saying is some software allows it, and if that is, then we'll deal with that way. But in some cases, it doesn't work. And so that's not a university limitation, that's a vendor limitation.
Okay, so the key issue here would be, if somebody else is paying, university renews or the faculty renews, it should not be too bothersome for us, as long as it's renewed on time. So we really need to make sure that we are renewing it so that it's not, it doesn't affect the students. Okay, so that's the response on the license. On the gate, can I ask the head of security to say something on it?
Along the lower stretch, you'll find about 8 to 10 gates. Of those gates, only 3 are manned by security. Every time there is a break-in in one of the car parks, security have to run down there. Every month, there's at least 2 break-in into the cars. And these are some of the issues that we are facing with security is the unmanned gates. Starting from Solent Place, right down to the Bus Bay Gate. We have about 8 gates which are not manned. Every time we stop somebody trying to come in, they go into one of these gates to enter into campus. And even at night when I come around to do my checks, 11 o'clock sometime in the mornings, you find the gates are still open. So I've authorized, get a bicycle lock the gate to try to control the access, those who are coming in without any proper authority. So I've requested the PNF to look at a way of trying to construct a road or a footpath, a proper footpath into that place. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor, can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
So, because security used to come under DVC Cole's office. I understand that the issue is regarded by the Chief of Security, but if you look at all the gates unmanned, all the way from P Gate up to Solent Gate, you'll find that most of them are not locked. Even Solent Gate is never locked. So I think this lady has a valid point in that it's very difficult at the moment for her to access the room, and if we are leaving gates like Solent Gate open, then why should we not leave this open and just be more aware of what the situation is?
VC, if I could just respond from the faculty office. This issue has been going on for about 3 months now, and we've had repeated emails back and forth. I think the big issue here is safety of our students. I myself have been locked out because I choose to walk through the front way after my 4 to 6 classes, for example, to go back to the office there, and I can't because the gate is locked.
And it's happened about 3 or 4 times that they've changed the keys. Now, our students are not first-year students, and I'm not belittling the first students here, but what I am saying is that they are mature students who can open and lock the gate, and they've been doing this all of this time. We have not had a single safety issue at the Postgrad Center since we opened it. So I want to make that very clear. Secondly, the reason I choose not to go the long way is because we've had more than one incident of a mature female student falling while crossing near the pond. And being true Pacific Islanders, they simply go home and they don't lodge formal complaints. One day, my fear is someone will fall and be dangerously hurt, as we had a staff member a couple of years ago. It happened to a staff member on campus, and I don't want that to happen. Unfortunately, even though we have raised the issue with the dean, and she has been supportive in raising our faculty concern, we are simply getting one response, which is, that is not a student gate. And fair enough, but if it isn't, and we've simply been given that physical space, what kind of compromise can we work towards so that our students have a safe working environment that they can work in, that they can access easily? Also, we have repeatedly asked for lights at the front of the center where the step is, and at the back. It's very, very dark and very, very slippery. So I do support the students' request. We have also raised the issue of the fact that we don't have wheelchair access into the building, but we do have wheelchair access into one of the toilets. So if a student could magically get into the building, they could use a toilet. And while we might laugh about it, I mean, I think it's something that we should take seriously. Again, we've raised it a number of times, but it hasn't been raised by the students because we haven't yet had a student who needs to access the building. But there are a number of concerns we have raised, and we would really like those to be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make the following suggestions. One is that we will put the lights. Okay? Now, I'm not sure who I can direct to put the lights because I don't see anybody from properties, but my executive officer will note that they will be instructed to put the lights so that at least the area is lit. Secondly, we will want to see some costing of whether we can have the gate with a lock with good security so that, you know, people can't give the keys to others, and perhaps with, sort of some sort of biosecurity in it. Work out what the cost is likely to be. Eh?
We must have a very good gate there.
Yeah, so we will see what it means. The other one we should do, which is relatively straightforward, is to actually create a good footpath. So even if people do want to go to the, sort of the main gate there, they can walk without any risk of falling. Okay, so somebody will have to look at all of these things. What does it cost to put the new gate and with the security, and what does it cost to put the footpath, and what can we do in more immediate term as opposed to longer term. Did you want to add anything? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so apparently there is a group that is looking at it, so we'll ask that group to look at it. And we also want to make sure that the place is not for living, so people do come and treat it as a study area, etc. I'm going to suggest that it's a couple of minutes to 4. I have a delegation from Guangdong province coming to see me at 4. We've had a reason, sorry, you want to have a last one?
Yes, this is on the generic courses.
Generic courses, yeah.
The reason why I'm making this is I'm almost finishing the youth partner program. The problem is we have, the skills program, we try to get rooms to do our skill practice. I think so there's not enough space in terms of time. We hope that, it's inbuilt into the youth partner program where there's allocated rooms for the next student who's going to come in and to youth partner. And the last one is the buses that go, because we do Rodala law campus now, the law students and medical students. We have 1 hour. Before we used to have 2 hours in between. Now we have 1 hour and the bus are always full. If you get one proof, I will take a photo and send it to you if you like. So that's to confirm. We are still, I'm doing law and also management. And I catch this bus every day to let me wait for 1 hour. So I can just put it into your test. I've already raised it with Bill, and I've raised it, I don't know how many times, nothing has been done. But this is the number of students moving back and forth. Most of the students have to walk. So it's OHS, because you know about why we have our office, a shuttle. When students, thank you, sir.
That's all right.
But is he talking about the student learning support?
No, this is the bus, the physical bus.
Chair, can I answer that bus, just the bus?
This is under you.
There may be some other areas that Akinese would like to answer later. Just email me about the bus timetable. The buses are not always full, but I do acknowledge the fact that sometimes the buses are full. I don't think a full bus is an OHS issue, but it is definitely a student issue. So send me an email, or we can meet later and we'll have a look at that. Okay, so.
Okay, this is the last question because we've had 2 hours and I really must get away, so please.
To add on to what she said,
because
like you were saying that we do respond. The responses are here on this computer issue. Last night we couldn't upload my assignment into the uploading box. Took us about 40 minutes because the thing started freezing. And I've complained about two weeks ago. I have the emails here to the IT center. I came and saw them last week. I complained about the Lab 8, likewise to the OZ, that it's slowing down, and they responded. They do respond. I do appreciate that you said that we've got a system. Yes, the system is there. They do respond. They've responded. Sanjay Sia Hana has responded. So, but I came again because I used to spend about 1 whole night there, just doing my work inside, and there's no change. So I would suggest, I'm just making a suggestion, if you respond, that's okay. The process is there. But if they could manually, physically come and check. Now there's about 5 computers still down there. I just came from Lab 8. So that's why I was late. I just want to see whether they've done anything. I told them last Friday, you don't do anything, I'm going to raise this with the VC. And I have proof here. I've already sent them emails 2 weeks back. They responded, their response is here, but still...
What did they say in the response?
They said that they're going to look into it.
Okay.
It's here.
Okay, after this, Kisione will go down himself and undertake to make sure that's attended to.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the last opportunity goes to Henry.
Yes, I think you have already closed the forum visit on behalf of the Student Association. I would like to thank you for this forum, and we look forward for all the complaints that the students have raised to be answered or attended to. So on behalf of the student, we would like to thank you, and we look forward for the next semester's forum. Thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to thank everybody because it can be uncomfortable at times, but the only way of improving our system is this honest, robust feedback. And our acceptance of feedback is a necessary part of continuous improvement. So thank you very much.